Hey, it is 12 noon on Wednesday, which means it's time for this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Christmas. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate, and today we're going to be walking through planning for your success once you've gotten your real estate license. So stick with us. We've got a great show for you today. I'm John Christmas. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Christmas. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you live to help you mastermind, to help you grow your real estate business, to help you better understand the technical side of the real estate industry. Make sure you check out tampaschool.com if you're interested in starting or enhancing your career in real estate, or give us a call at phone number 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that they can. So let's talk about this whole kind of planning for success thing. So why is planning for success important? So let's ultimately say we've got point A and point B. You've heard this expression before: fastest way between 2 points, but from point A to point B is a straight line. There's really no other quicker way to go about this. And don't get too quantum physical on me with the curvature of the earth and all that other stuff here. We're just talking simply, you want to go from home to, let's say, the grocery store, whatever that may be, point A to point B, straight line. Now, what ultimately happens here, where you don't end up going that straight line, is what happens, and this isn't just necessarily going to the store or going out to wherever it may be. I'm more specifically wanting to talk about, kind of your business journey, your career journey, how that actually plays out. Because what ultimately happens here is, instead of going on this straight line, and very rarely are you able to go exactly like it is that you plan out directly to what it is that you want, what ultimately happens is you kind of start going that direction, then you kind of meander out this way, then maybe you kind of whip back this way, then back over here, and eventually you make it to your straight line. But you can see how much longer this red line is than that blue line. So now, how can we help mitigate and help minimize this earring, this varying from our course? Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things we could call these webs and flows that are going away from our straight line. So, maybe we kind of start here on our path towards our point B to what it is that we want, but then we start veering off this way. So now, why was it that we started going this way rather than going to point B? So the first one is that point B isn't clearly defined. So the first thing you always want to have is, number one, clearly defined goals. Very important, because if you don't know where it is that you're going, where it is that you would like to be, you're going to have a hard time getting there, because you're basically going to be wandering through life, going with the flow, so to say, not taking control of the situation. And the reason why you might not be taking control is you don't know what this point B actually looks like. So number one is, you want to have clearly defined goals. And I know we do seem very metaphysical right now, but we are going to get more practical down to actual real estate stuff and how you can implement this in your business to understand your business goals and what objectives you need to reach and what those steps are going to look like. So we're going to get into more detail with that later in the episode. But the first problem that we've got here is that you have to have clearly defined goals. If you have a clearly defined goal, then you're like, okay, that's where I need to go. Rather than here, you might just be kind of whooshing through this. Maybe at this point was where you finally clearly defined the goal, and you're like, okay, there it is, boom. And eventually, you're going to get there. If the key thing here, with perseverance, with maintaining and continuing to push yourself forward and continuing to grow, you're eventually going to make it to that objective and that goal it is that you want. But maybe it'll take 100 years to get there, whereas it might take 2 years with your straight line. So it's now the question of time. Are you going to get to that point B when you've got one foot in the grave, for lack of a better term? You don't have any time to enjoy whatever point was that had gotten you, or do you want to try to get there quickly? Do you want to get straight to it so you still have time to enjoy whatever it is that point B gets you? Or maybe point B is really leading to point C, to point D, and all these greater and larger goals, and if you're stuck up still trying to get to point B and you're hung up on that, that makes that very difficult for you. So number one is having clearly defined goals. But now let's say with a scenario here, so we're trying to get from point A to point B, and we do have defined what point B actually is. We have actually set, okay, point B is I want to make this amount of money, or I want to have this many deals closed, or I want to have this many people working for me, or I want to have this much of a impression, or this many impressions I'm making on people in my community, or whatever that may be. Whatever it is that your point B is, number one is that you have it clearly defined. And you want to have it clearly defined down to the point where you have an exact number like that. Like I said, you have this much dollars, this many deals. So have an actual number, because that's going to help us in reverse engineering this that we're going to be doing later in the episode. But you have to clearly define what that point B is. But now let's say in this scenario here, we do have that clearly defined, but we still end up taking this long course, this long road, instead of going straight to point B. And there's a lot of different things that could end up causing that. Another big problem, if we do have the goal defined, is number two, switch to blue here. Number two, work your plan, not somebody else's. So what that means is, and we see a lot of this in the real estate space. In the real estate space, there's constantly people that are trying to sell you something, trying to get you to be part of their plan. And what happens is their plan might not exactly align with your plan. Maybe it's going to help kind of push you closer to that direction, but maybe also it's skewing you off to the side, kind of like we have here. Because ultimately from here to here, we are more in the direction of point B, but we've skewed so much to the side. So what happens when you get these telemarketers, or these people that are calling you, these people that want to make you part of their plan because maybe they want to sell you some sort of advertising, and advertising is good. But now the question is that getting you towards point B? Is this something that fits into your plan? So you have to work your plan and not be victim to anybody else's plan. So that's our second thing you want to keep in mind. The third thing I want to advise you to keep in mind here. Because, okay, let's say we clearly define point B, we have been making sure we're working our plan and we're not victim to any other plans, but now how do we still get sidetracked like this? So there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be issues, there's going to be things that come up in your life. And what ultimately it is that you want to do here, so let's say we got to down here, because some sort of issue cropped up. Some sort of issue, some sort of obstacle, some sort of problem that was keeping us from our goals cropped up that made us end up down here. So what you have to do is course correct. So you can be, okay, boom, now we get back to point B. Because ultimately, if we just made this move, that's still a lot quicker than this big, long track it was that we took here. So rule number 3 is course correct. So like I said, it's not avoid obstacles, it's not avoid problems, it's not avoid things like natural disasters. I mean, the entire state of Florida is still, for the most part, turned upside down. A lot of people's lives are thrown into disarray as it is right now because we have this major natural disaster that impacted the entire state of Florida. But now it's the point of, okay, we need to be proactive rather than reactive, and we need to course correct along the way. Okay, we're off of our course. We still know what B is. We still are going to be working our plan for B, but now we need to change our plan a little bit. Okay, we're here. Now we have to do this to kind of make that straight shot towards B. So there's going to be times where you get off like this, but now it's the question of, are you making it this far off in your course correcting, or you wait until you're all the way down here? Because if we were able to course correct when we started veering off course here, it's really not that much longer than our straight line. And there's going to be those little things that are causing this to be a little bit more bumpy road getting to whatever destination it is, whatever that option, whatever that final end goal actually is. It's never going to be just a straight line. If it is just as simple of, okay, straight to it, no obstacles, nothing in the way, you don't have a goal that's large enough or strong enough or that doesn't challenge you enough. So the goals that are truly going to challenge you and test your willpower and test your faith and test your adaptability are the ones that are going to throw you all over the place. There's going to be things that pop up that cause you to not work your plan. There's going to be things that pop up that are out of your control. As much as you want to try to control stuff, because that's essentially what you're doing when you're controlling the direction of which way it is that you're going, there's going to be things that pop up that you can't control. So you need to course correct as soon as you can for whenever it is that you start to get off course here. So whenever you have some sort of distraction, some sort of obstacle, whatever it may be, you need to course correct to get back on there. So these are pretty much the three cardinal rules that they're very simple foundation of, okay, we need to get from where we are now to where it is that we want to be. We need to, number one, define where it is that we want to be. Number two, work the plan, and that's assuming we have already created the plan, so that's kind of step 1.5 there is creating your plan, which we're going to be doing later in the show, so stick around for that. But sticking to that plan. And then the third rule is, okay, when we get off course, when we get skewed aside here, not to just throw in the towel, not to just give up, but course correct here and basically push ourselves back towards the direction of getting towards that goal it is that you want to achieve. We're going to talk more practical and more tactical and talk about actually building out one of these plans. We've got a great business plan calculator that's free for all of you guys watching to use. I'm going to give you guys that link after this commercial break, so stick with us. This is a live stream, so if you have questions, throw those in the comments down below. I've got Facebook and YouTube comments loaded up on here for us, so make sure you send those in. We're going to be back in less than 2 minutes. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrismo with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Chrismo. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. And if you're just tuning in, you're probably wondering what this abstract piece of artwork here that I've drawn up on the screen is. And that's what we were talking about before we went on the first break. We're talking about today of planning for success and how important this is, especially when you're venturing out into something like a real estate career. Now, real estate is something a lot of people find a lot of success in because it is a very cooperative and team type of effort across even competing brokerages because we're all ultimately cooperating on the same transaction, some representing the buyers, some representing the sellers. So there's a lot of that going on, but at the same time, and you still have got your broker or any mentors or any trainings and classes it is that you're taking, but on top of that, it's ultimately you that's in charge of your destiny. So it gives you a great upside potential, as well as if you don't keep your things in order and you don't, you'll end up, like I said, you'll eventually get to point B. You're at point A and you'll eventually get to point B. It just might take you a lot longer if you end up having to zigzag all the way through there rather than taking your straight line or your kind of straight line for that. So that's everything we were talking about at the beginning. If you guys are just tuning in, you wanted to catch all that because I did a lot better job explaining that in the first 15 minutes here, go to tampaschool.com/success after the show and you're going to be able to watch the whole recorded version of this episode. But we talked about our 3 rules as well, and we're going to get into planning one of these out in just a second here. But number 1 is clearly defining your goal. Number 1, knowing what that point B of where it is that you want to be actually looks like. Number 2, after you've created a plan, which is what we're going to talk about now, is working your plan and staying committed to your plan. But then when you get skewed off course correcting along the way. You have to continue to adapt for the turbulence, the obstacles, the natural disasters, the economic crises, the financial crises, the personal crises, all these things that pop up. They're going to ultimately be an obstacle in achieving what it is that you want. It's okay to be frustrated about them for a few seconds, but then get back in and say, okay, now how do I course correct to ultimately get where it is that I need to go? So we've got those 3 rules. Now let's talk about creating the plan, defining what that point B actually looks like, and then ultimately reverse engineering a plan from that. So once we establish what it is that we want, the goal. So once we come up with the goal, now we need the plan to actually come up with the goal. And there's a lot of people out there, myself included, I'm almost inclined to say, oh, I don't really need much of a plan. We'll just get to that goal when we get to it. Well, I could tell you firsthand the goals that I set like that where I said, oh, I want to do this, and I don't really put much planning behind it. They don't really come to fruition. I might get lucky, and I'm sure you're in the same boat as well, where if you set a goal but you don't actually have a plan to achieving that goal, there's a saying for that. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So yeah, you could wish to be a millionaire, you could wish to be able to retire, you could wish for all these things, and that's really what a goal is. When you have a goal, but you don't have any way to actually achieve that goal. So it's very important to have the plan. But having the goal is first. So if you've got the goal, but you don't have the steps in the plan figured out to get to that, that's okay. You're further off than a lot of people because a lot of people won't even come up with the goal. But there's still a lot more to be done after you have the goal. So let's say we want that goal first and foremost, and let's say our goal is to have $1 million in gross commission income in a year. So $1 million gross commission income in a year. Gross commission income, meaning our commission income before expenses we have on top of that. So that's our goal. Now, it's good to have established that, but okay, if you just say, okay, I have a goal to get $1 million in gross commission income, and then somebody asks you, okay, well, what are you doing to achieve that goal? What are you doing to move yourself forward and move yourself towards that goal? And you're like, oh, that's a good question. I probably should come up with some steps for that there. Yeah, you look like you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about, so you have to have the actual steps of what this comes up to. So let's take the real estate, since this is a show about real estate here. Let's talk about the real estate example and now what it looks like leading up to this commission. Getting to a commission, whether it's $1 million commission or it's just a $1,000 commission, any sort of commission, what ultimately comes right before the commission, well, when do you get paid your commission? Well, if your broker signed the authorization order, otherwise your broker is to pay you after the fact, but it's the closing. Without a closing, you're not going to get a commission. So that's immediately preceding your commission. And you're like, okay, John, yeah, I know that. But now it's where we work backwards even further that's going to help make this a little bit clearer and help us dial in what it is that we need to do. So our closing, what comes right before our closing? Well, before closing, we have a contract. So once we have a contract, then we can have a closing, and then we get to our income goal. Okay, but we're not done yet. Now, before we get to our contract, what do we have to have before a contract? Well, before we have a contract, we have to have an appointment. So we have to have an appointment, then we'll have a contract, then we'll have a closing, and then that'll ultimately get us to our commission income. But now, in order to get an appointment, again, it goes a further step back. What do we need to get an appointment? Well, in order to get an appointment, you have to have a lead. If you have a lead, then you can get an appointment, which will lead to a contract, which will lead to a closing, which will lead to you getting commission income. But then before that, you could even go back even further and say, okay, in order to get a lead, and now this is going to vary based on what type of prospecting or marketing it is that you're doing, how many people I have to talk to, how many letters it is I have to send out, how much I have to spend in a certain type of advertising, or whatever that may be. So there's even ways to reverse engineer it there. But since that could vary and branch off in so many different ways, we'll talk about that a little bit later, of getting to what these leads are. But let's assume that you have a lead, or really you have a handful of leads. Because now what's important with this? Are all contracts going to close? No. Probably most of your contracts are going to close, but not all of your contracts are going to close. So that's something we need to take into consideration. Not all of our contracts are going to close. And let's just take a really conservative, I don't know what my hair is doing today, but don't be too distracted by that. So in order to have a contract go to closing, we're not going to have all of ours. And let's just pick a conservative number here. Let's say that 50% of our contracts are going to go to closing. So that's basically allowing for half of our contracts to fall through before closing, which you'll probably have a lot higher number than that. Let's even pick a little bit higher number than that and make it a little bit more realistic. Let's say 80%. Let's say 80% of our contracts are going to go to closing. Well, that's great. But now, how many appointments are going to result in a contract? How many appointments do we have to have, or what's that percentage look like to go from an appointment to a contract? Well, this one, we're going to have a lot lower number than 80% because most contracts are going to close, but not all appointments are going to be a contract. And now so these numbers that I'm picking out here, these are just for exemplary purposes. These are just really to kind of show you and help you get an understanding of how this process works and how this flows. But for this to be truly effective, and this goes back to that course correct along the way, when you find that your numbers aren't the numbers it was that you specified here, you have to course correct. You have to recrunch these numbers, recalculate these numbers, and now adapt your business if you still want to get to that same goal. But let's say our appointment to contract percentage is 25%. So 25% of our appointments are going to result in a contract. And out of those contracts, 80% are going to go to a closing. So now, how many leads are going to turn into an appointment? And now this is going to vary again on your business, and this could even branch out further depending on where these leads are actually coming from. But now, how many leads are going to turn into an appointment? And let's say here about 50%. And again, the key thing is using numbers of your business. Don't just take these numbers here as the standard, as the norm. Depending on your personality, depending on your market, depending on how well trained it is that you are, these numbers are going to vary greatly of what this actually looks like in the end. And that's why it's so important to course correct along the way. If you don't have numbers of your business yet, maybe you're just getting started, use these numbers as an example, or you could kind of play with these numbers so you get an understanding of what this kind of looks like here. But once you start getting some appointments and leads and contracts and closings, always keep track of that, so that way you could say, okay, I've had 10 contracts and 8 of those have gone to closing. That means 80% of my contracts go to closing. If it's 8 out of 10, 8 divided by 10 is 80%. So that's how we're coming up with those numbers there. You want to keep track of the metrics and numbers of your business so you can apply that in there. So now, how do we reverse engineer this? So how many leads do we need? How many leads? And we'll put that all on this side here for the numbers that we actually need for all this here. And so like I said, we've actually got a business plan calculator that's going to help you out with this, that's going to help you get an understanding of what these numbers are without having to really crunch all the math on your own. This is pretty quick and easy math to be able to do, but we actually have what's called our business plan calculator, and this is available on our Success Center. So wait until after the show, but write this link down. It's tampaschool.com/success. That's tampaschool.com/success, SUCCESS. And what you're going to want to do, this usually shows up right on the right-hand side under top articles, or you can search for it on that site, of how to write a business plan. And this how to write a business plan basically walks you through step by step of kind of going through something like this, establishing your goal, now coming up with a plan for it, but it actually has an interactive calculator built in on there, and that's tampaschool.com/success. But what you'll do is you're just going to put in each of these numbers. So I've got the calculator uploaded for us right here, right now. So we're going to go ahead and pop in $1 million there. Make sure we've got enough zeros. Yeah, 6 zeros. So there we go. So we've got our $1 million in gross commission. Now, what we need to figure out is, okay, if we want to get our $1 million in total commission, what our average sales price for the home is. So you would take your average sales price of the home and basically get a figuring of what your commission is. And this actually walks it out and breaks it out into 3 different steps. So you're going to see step 1 on here of figuring out what total commission normally is. And step 2 of figuring out how much your commission would be out of all this here. So let's say that we've got this $1 million goal. So we put in this is under step 3. For desired gross annual income, you're going to put in what that income goal is. Put in whatever your goal is. It doesn't have to be $1 million. You could put more than that. You could be less than that. It's whatever your goal is. And listen, the more real this goal is, the more real this is to you, because maybe it's not about the money that you're getting. It's not just because you want to have $1 million in income in a year. It's because you want to buy a better home for your family, or you want to buy, let's say, a boat so you could enjoy time with your family, or maybe you want to buy some sort of fancy car, or you want to be able to go on to some sort of trip, or maybe you want to be able to give back to your community. Whatever those real reasons are behind you, it's good to kind of take those and quantify how much money it is that you'll need to fund those projects and fund those different things to come up with how much gross commission income it is that you would want, because now that number's a lot more real to you. But let's, for example purposes, again, just pick the $1 million. So we've got $1 million. Now we're going to put in the average sales price up at the top in step 1. And let's say the average sales price for the market that we're dealing in is $400,000. So we'll put $400,000 as the average sales price. Now, right below that, so what this is showing here in step 1 in this calculator, and again, you'll be able to watch this whole recording on the Success Center as well, so you don't have to pull this up right there, right now. But in the first step, you're figuring out what the average commission would normally be. So if the commission rate, and you fill this in, is 3% that you'd be charging or that you would typically receive, you'd put in 3% for that. If it's 3.5, put that. If it's 2, put that. Put in whatever percentage of commission you'd normally get. And what that would say is basically it's calculating out for you, okay, on a $400,000 house, you would get a $12,000 commission with 3%. And if that's the average sale price or the average commission it is that you charge, then your average transaction would yield $12,000 in total commission. Now in the step 2, this breaks it down into your brokerage split. So this breaks it down between the sales associate and the broker, how much this breaks up between the two of you. And this could be a 100% situation. This could be a 50-50 situation. What you're going to put in there is what percentage you get out of your transactions. So on here, it's got it as 70%. Let's bump that up. Let's say we've got, if we're an experienced agent and we're heading for $1 million, maybe we've got a 100% split, or maybe it's 99%. You're going to throw in there to factor in whatever transaction fee or whatever types of fees it is that you might have, even if you're at a 100% type of situation or something like that. So let's just say it's the 100%. That means we're getting all of that $12,000 every time we close on a property. And now, step 3, this is where we start working into this kind of flow that we've talked about here. We set our goal in there as $1 million, and what that means is if our average commission is $12,000, that means we need 83.33 closings, aka 84 closings. Because if we get 83 closings, we're going to be falling short on $1 million. So we need at least 84 closings to be able to get to this. And now the important part, again, is course correcting along the way, going back and updating this. So we would need 84 closings, and now we're going to go ahead and continue down the road here of filling in these percentages for each one of these. So we're going to walk through this a little bit further with our calculator. Again, write down that link. It's tampaschool.com/success. We're going to put the exact link for this calculator right in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're watching, you can copy that link right now, and you'll have that where you can go in after the show and plug in your own numbers on this. But we're going to take a quick commercial break right now. Stick with us. I'm John Chrisma. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Chrisman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. If you're interested in starting or enhancing your real estate career, make sure you give us a call or send us a text message. Phone number is 813-928-0106. And you can also visit us online at tampaschool.com. You can find all those links right in this fancy little bar we got below us here. So what we're talking about is planning for success. And now while we're on break, I went ahead and popped in the link for our business plan calculator in the comments on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So you'll be able to go in there after the show because you don't want to miss any of this stuff, or maybe pull it up in a different tab so that way you can still hear me explaining this here, because this is a complex calculator. It really does, it's pretty powerful. And if you don't know what you're doing with this yet, then you're going to have some trouble figuring this out. So basically what we've walked through so far is, okay, we're trying to shoot for this $1 million gross commission income. Again, put in whatever number it is that you want to achieve in gross commission income that you want on an annual basis. And that's what we're figuring this off of here. Based on 1 year, we want $1 million. So in order to do that, the first thing we're entering in our calculator is, number one, what our commission looks like on average. And what it's doing in this first step here is you're putting in the average sale price of a home, which let's say is $400,000. And then you're putting the typical commission, which let's say it's 3%. That's what we've got in the calculator here. And that gives you $12,000. Now, in this example here, we're saying, okay, we've got 100% split between our broker and the agent. Now, if you're an experienced agent, that's definitely a split that you could pursue. But if you're a new agent, you don't want to have 100% brokerage split, because that means the broker doesn't have any vested interest in you as an agent and actually you closing deals. So you'll want a brokerage that does offer some sort of split for you. So maybe if you're brand new to this, you adjust that split accordingly. Maybe your broker has you on an 80-20 split where you get 80% of the commission, the broker gets 20%. That's not a bad thing if you're getting value in exchange and value in return for that. So if by giving your broker 20% of your commission, you're able to get the mentoring and support you need to get that transaction actually closed, or maybe you're getting some marketing materials or whatever it may be. There's a lot of things the brokerages offer, but they're not offering those to you for free. So they're either going to be charging you some sort of fee for that, or they're going to be charging you a percentage of your commission, or maybe even a combination of the both. But what we're figuring here again, so $12,000, and if we're on that 100% plan, that means $12,000 is what we get, maybe minus some errors and omission or a transaction fee or something like that, but about $12,000 we'd have here. So our third step that we've got is now figuring, okay, we want our $1 million in gross commission income. How many closings is it that we need? And what it's doing in this calculator is basically taking your commission average per transaction. So if your average commission per transaction is $12,000, what it's doing is it's dividing it by this $1 million, and now it's coming up with, okay, you need 83.3, aka 84 closings. So you need 84 closings in order to get your $1 million in gross commission income. Now, it is important that you constantly, again, correct course and constantly update this calculator with what your metrics are for your business currently. And that's where we move into step 4. So step 4 is asking for a closing percentage. The closing percentage is, okay, how many contracts are going to closing? Which this example here, we're using 80%. So basically, we're going to punch in here that 80% of our contracts close. So if 80% of our contracts close, so we already established that we need 84 closings, and if 80% of our contracts close, that means we need 104 contracts. So if we have 104 contracts, 80% of those will close, that means we need 84 closings. And that'll get us to, if we have an average commission of $12,000, over our $1 million mark. But now we need to figure out, okay, what's our contract percentage? What percentage of appointments result in contracts? And in this one here, we're saying, okay, 25% of our appointments are going to result in a contract. So we're going to go ahead and punch that in. You're going to see that it's already got some numbers in these calculator for you. And these are just here for example purposes. Again, put the numbers in for your business. Maybe you're really good at getting contracts to closing, but you don't have as many appointments going into contracts. Which that would make sense. If you don't have as many appointments going into contracts, the contracts that you are getting out of your appointments are probably going to be more sure thing type of contracts, as opposed to if you've got 50% here, that might bump you down to like 60% here, or maybe even lower than that, because maybe the contracts you're getting aren't as of the same quality. So you constantly want to be recalculating this and redoing this. I would say doing this at least once a month, at the very least once a month, going through and rerunning these numbers to see if you're still on course and on track, or maybe as quickly as once a week, or you could even run this calculator once a day if you want. Again, that link that I put in the comments down here, that you could run that as many times as you want and plug in the numbers as many times as you need to constantly stay on track with what it is that you want. So let's say again, 25% of our appointments are going to turn into a contract. So we're going to go ahead and plug that into our calculator here. 25% is our contract percentage. That means we need 130 So yeah, that means we need 130 appointments. And once we have those 130 appointments, that will now go into our contracts that we figured there. But now we need to figure, okay, how many leads is it to get to our appointments? And so again, we're just going to plug that into our calculator, that 50% of our leads turn into appointments. So we're going to plug in that 50% number here. Okay, and that leads us with 260 leads. So if we've got 260 leads, that'll lead to 130 appointments, which will lead to 104 contracts, which will lead to 84 closings. And then once we've got that all plugged into our calculator here, we end up with the figures that we need to understand, which is 260 leads. And now if you go further down, it even has a further step for calculating out, okay, how much is it are you going to work? How many weeks off are you going to take? How many days per week is it that you're going to work? And then it figures, okay, if you're taking 4 weeks off a year, so if you're taking a month off a year, which that doesn't have to be a month straight, maybe that's a couple weeks here and there, whatever that may be, and you're working 5 days a week, and again, plug in whatever numbers are comfortable for you in there, you're going to end up with 240 work days. So if you're working 5 days a week with 4 weeks off a year, that's 240 days it is that you have to generate these 260 leads. And so what that breaks down even further for us here is, okay, for 260 leads that we need to get, that means we need per day 1.08 leads. And for 1 week, we need 2.71 leads. And then for 1 month, we need 6.94. So if we get 6.94 closings per month, that's actually closings, not leads there. So basically what this means is if we get 7 closings a month with our average sale price of $400,000 at 3% commission, that will get us to our $1 million of gross commission income. So again, this is a very complex calculator here, and take your time, work through this. It'll allow you to put your email in there and email a copy of it to yourself, so you could save that, you could print it out, you could stick that up on your bulletin board and continue to look at it, save it on your desktop, on your computer, whatever it is that you need to do, so you can constantly go back to that and reiterate it and rework the numbers and make sure that you're still on track to whatever it is that your goal is. Because like I said, before we went on the first segment here, if we're trying to go from point A to point B, quickest way is our straight line. But there's going to be, so our straight line would be okay if all these numbers work out as intended. But now what happens if we start taking on some lower price homes that are below $400,000? Well, that skews us away. So we have to course correct and say, okay, I need to have more volume. If this number is not going to be 400,000, if it's going to be 350,000, okay, now I'm going to need more volume, so we're going to bump this up. And that's what we're going to be talking about after this next break here is, okay, how do we course correct here? How can we use this same calculator and now re-update our numbers? And how is this going to change if we go from an average sale price of 400,000 down to an average sale price of 350,000? Or if our closing percentage changed, or our contract percentage changed, or our appointment percentage changed, or any of these metrics change. Maybe we have to take more time off because of maybe some unexpected family emergency or natural disaster or whatever that may be. So stick with us. We're going to work that with this calculator here, and that's why you want to continually go through this here. But stay with us. We're going to be right back after this commercial break. I'm John Charismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Charismo with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Charismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. This week we're talking about planning for success. And you may have heard before that failing to plan is planning to fail, and why that is. And it's not necessarily that you'll never reach your goal. It's not that. It's just going to take so much longer. And that's what we talked about in this first segment here before we went on the first break, is okay, if you're trying to get from point A to point B, straight line is the fastest way to get there. But what happens is, especially when you have a process that can be this complex here, there's so many moving pieces and so many factors that could make it where you're not going straight exactly to where it is that you want. There could be all these different things that maybe take you so much longer to get to that point B. And when you're having to go all this different way instead of just straight to it, if you stick with it long enough with perseverance, that overcomes all, really, and you're eventually going to get to that point B. But who wants to wait that long? Everyone's impatient, and that's why most people don't have perseverance, is because they're impatient, and so impatient that they're willing to give up on their hopes, dreams, and desires and not achieve whatever goal it is that they wanted. When the going starts to get rough, when they start getting skewed off into a different direction, just throw in the towel and give up on that. Perseverance says continue on this. But you want to have smart perseverance, because yes, there's going to be things that you can't control, but again, you want to try to adapt for these, so when you get skewed off, you start going back towards your straight line towards point B. And you want to try to always course correct, because if you're not running these numbers, if you're not calculating out how many closings you need to how many contracts, to how many appointments, to how many leads, you're going to end up with just kind of floating through life. There's a great expression that talks about go with the flow. So going with the flow. Now let's think about what that really means. Let's not take the figurative sense of that and talk about the literal sense with that. So why do rivers flow? Let's think of a river that kind of runs, I think it's only on the Canadian side. I think it's actually maybe split between Canada and the United States, particularly New York. So there's this river that's flowing, and the river starts to pick up speed. And let's say you're just going with the flow down this river. you're just going down with the flow. I mean, you've got paddles in the boat, meaning you have the capabilities to steer yourself, but you're deciding just to go with the flow instead, kicking back, let life carry you as it chooses. And what happens is you might start picking up speed with this here. But when you're letting the market, when you're letting life, when you're letting these external circumstances guide you, you're going to eventually end up at Niagara Falls, because the current's going to start picking up and you're going to be like, oh, this is great. This is fantastic. And this is what happened with the real estate crisis 10 years ago, was anyone could go out and sell real estate. It wasn't hard to sell real estate. Anyone could go out there and say, yeah, I want to buy that house. Anyone could be approved for a loan to buy the house. So that was, again, not steering yourself. It was the market pushing this, and now the agents that survived that and were able to go beyond that, they were the ones who knew how to use the oar. So when they came up on the rim and the lip of Niagara Falls, they're like, uh-oh, not today, and they started rowing the other direction while everyone else ended up going over the falls. So every time I hear that go with the flow expression, I almost cringe, because I'm like, no, you don't want to do that. That's so dangerous. That's so careless to just go with the flow. So by establishing these numbers and these metrics and understanding what it takes to get whatever it is that your goal is, whether it's $1 million in gross and commission income, $100,000, or whatever goals it is that you have, again, you want to reverse engineer this so you know this step leads to this step, leads to this step, leads to that step. And when you've got that dialed in, now when you start noticing changes, when let's say that your closing percentage changed. Maybe this isn't a 80%, maybe this is really a 70%. So when that changes, that's something we're going to update. And now with this little calculator it is that we've built out for you guys, it makes it really easy. Again, you just plug in all of your numbers. So let's plug in some of these differences here. So let's say we've got a $350,000 average sale price. So that's 3%. Let's choose a commission split this time. So and let's keep track of all these that we're going through here so you can see all this. So we'll establish our numbers here. We've got our home price of $350,000, so we'll choose that as our average sale price. Again, when you're running these calculations, you want to do it based on your market, the area it is that you're working. So our price of $350,000. Let's say our commission of 3%, and our split, let's say, is 80%. So what that means is you're getting 3% of $350,000, and then 20% of that is going to the broker. The other 80% is going to you. So we're going to plug this in our calculator. 3% of $350,000 gives you $10,500. The split, again, the default in here is 70%. Let's bump this up to 80%. These defaults are by no means averages or anything like that. They're just there for example purposes. So let's say that 80%, that means to you as the agent, you end up with $8,400. And again, this calculator it is that I'm using, it's on our Success Center. I've put the link in the comments on both Facebook and YouTube, so that way you guys are able to check that out after the show, and you'll also be able to see the recording of this episode as well as all of our previous episodes, so you can go through this again with me to make sure you've got this dialed in for your numbers. But that would be $8,400 that we're dealing with here. This is a big difference from the $12,000 that we were coming up with, especially when you're trying to get to $1 million. That $4,000 difference that we've got here, when we multiply that out so many different times, we multiply that 80 times, that's going to be a big difference here. So we're going to put in again that we're still looking to get that $1 million. Let's say that's still the number it is that we're shooting for here. So for the $1 million, what that means is we need 119 closings. So 119 closings. If we have 119 closings, that's going to get us our $1 million with an average commission of $8,400. Okay, we've got that. Now moving down further, so let's talk about our closing percentage. Let's say our closing percentage is 90%. So let's say that we're really good. Once we get a contract, it's almost a sure thing it's going to close. Our average, again, you want to keep track of all these numbers, how many contracts you had, how many closings, and divide that out. If we had 10 contracts and 9 of them closed, that'd give us the 90% that we came up with here. So we plug in now our 90% closing percentage there. So what that gives us is, okay, we need 132 contracts then. So we need 132 contracts. Now the question of how many appointments we need to get to that many contracts. Let's say that 50% of our appointments are going to get to that number of contracts. So we're going to plug that in our calculator here, 50% of a contract percentage, and that tells us that, okay, we need 264 appointments. And now going down one more step to get to our leads portion of this, how many leads it is that we need. So let's say that out of our leads here, let's say about 40% of our leads result in an appointment. And so what that means when we plug that in, 40% of our leads resulting in an appointment means that we need 660 leads. So 660 leads, 40% of those turn into appointments, which gives us 264, 50% of those turn into contracts, which give us 132, and 90% of those turn into closing, which gives us 119. If it's at our average of $8,400 for sale price, that gives us our $1 million in gross commission income. So that basically tells us, okay, across this year, if we want to get $1 million in gross commission income, we need 660 leads. And now what does that look like? What are my daily activities looking like to get this many leads? So what you'll see below here in the step 7 in this calculator is how much are you going to work? So let's say that we're going to take 2 weeks off, and we're going to work 6 days a week. A lot of work. I mean, you don't have to work as much. You plug in whatever your numbers are on this, and this tells you how much, okay, if these are your numbers here, how many leads it is you need to generate per day. So if we're working 6 days a week and we're taking 2 days off, that means we're working 300 days a year. Calculator does these calculations for you. So again, utilize that. That's in the link in the comments. So once we've got that down, now it's going to go ahead and spit out what our targets are. So leads per day would be 2.2. So 2.2 leads per day. If we want to be on the safe side, I would just say, let's just get 3 leads a day. Let's just round up so we make sure we get that. If we're able to generate our 3 leads a day when we're working 6 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year, then we're going to be able to achieve our goals. So that's how many leads per day it is that you would need. Now, appointments per week. So how many appointments per week it is that we need? So calculator says 5.28. And again, that's what's nice about this. It does this work for you. So again, we could just round up. Okay, let's just get 6 appointments a week. We need 3 leads a day, 6 appointments a week. And now finally, closings per month. So closings per month is 9.52. And again, we could just round that up. Okay, we need 10 closings per month. So based on all this, if we want to get $1 million in gross commission income with an average sale price of $350,000 with a 3% average commission, an 80% split, yielding us $8,400 in gross commission per transaction, that we have a 90% closing rate, a 50% contract rate, a 40% appointment rate, and that's going to say, okay, we need 660 leads across the year. Sounds daunting, but now what does that break down for our daily activities? Okay, 3 leads a day, 6 appointments a week, and 10 closings a month. And there you have it. Now let's say that you are maybe just starting out and you would love to make $1 million a year, but maybe you're like, okay, I don't think that's going to be possible for me. I don't think I'm going to be able to generate this many leads or work that much or whatever it may be. Again, plug in your numbers here. Let's say that your desired annual gross income is $100,000. So at $100,000, our numbers are going to change drastically, and that's what's great about this calculator. You just punch in whatever it is that your numbers are. It instantly updates everything for you. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in red now if we only have a $100,000 goal. So what that means for $100,000 is we only need 11.9 closings. We only need 13 contracts. We only need 26 appointments. And we would only need 65 leads. And then what does that break down per day? And let's say we don't want to work 6 days a week. Let's say that's excessive. Let's say let's do 5 days a week. And let's say we're going to take those 4 weeks off a year. So what that breaks down to, and let me put in some more time off here, that let's say we're only going to work 4 days a week. We're going to work 4 days a week. We're taking 4 weeks off. And still, the numbers are hard to believe here. So what that means is we only need 0.34 leads per day for a $100,000 gross commission income given these same numbers here. So again, this allows you to kind of understand and find your strat and find out what amount it is that you want to achieve out of all this here. So again, you just need a third of a lead per day. So really what this means is you need one lead every 3 days. If you get one lead every 3 days, you would only need half an appointment per week. So you would have one appointment every 2 weeks, and all you need is about one closing a month. If you had one closing a month with $8,400, that's going to get you to your $100,000 within 1 year. So again, it's really important to plug in these numbers and know what it is based on the income goal as you want. And really, I challenge you to do some soul searching, do some internal reflection of coming up with that number there. Because it's easy to get burnt out chasing the $1 million when you got to do 3 leads a day, 6 appointments a week, 10 closings a month. But again, if your numbers fit for all this here and you're happy with the $100,000, now all of a sudden it's a lot less effort on your part to get to that. So this is what this calculator is really great for, and the key thing, again, I can't stress this enough, you got to course correct along the way. Once you start to get some of these numbers in, as your business changes, let's say this number changes, or this number changes, or this number changes, your average sale price changes, you want to be tracking all of this so you continually update this in the calculator, and it's constantly spitting out, okay, we're up to, okay, if we want to stay on track, you need this many leads. If you want to stay on track, you need this many appointments. If you want to stay on track, you need to have this many closings now. So definitely check out that calculator. Again, it's at tampaschool.com/success. You're also going to find a recording of this episode on there as well. I've got the link dropped into the comments on Facebook and YouTube, so make sure you check that out. If you guys have questions for us and you're watching the recording for this, make sure you put those in the comments for this still, because we'll still go back and you actually might be what spawns next week's episode of Ask the Instructor. Again, every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time, we come to you to help you understand the more technical side of the real estate industry. And this does seem very complicated, and that's again why we built out this calculator, to make it easy for you, because understanding the steps it is that you need to take, it's an easy thing, especially once you know what it is you have to do. So definitely check out that. It's a whole article on creating a business plan and working with that calculator, so check that out. But other than that, that's all I've got for you guys this week. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern time for Ask the Instructor, as well as this Friday for State of Real Estate, also at 12 noon Eastern time. You can find that here on Facebook, here on YouTube, or on our Success Center. Again, that's tampaschool.com/success. Thank you guys for tuning in this week, and I'll see you next week. Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com. Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern time. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.